Every time it's time for those three little ads to run on YouTube TV or Peacock or Netflix or every eighth scroll on TikTok, it's Serena Williams or Trisha Paytas or Charles Barkley or somebody pricking themselves with a GLP-1, talking about get yours for cheap. And I'm getting uncomfortable. Being thin has been an important marker in beauty since I can remember, and I'm probably sure my great grandparents feel the exact same way. In the 1800s, being bigger was actually the aspirational body type. It meant that you ate well and that you could probably survive a cold, brutal winter, one that thinner people typically couldn't. And then the 1900s happened, and that is where everything was flipped on its head. Industrialization made food abundant enough that being thin wasn't something that poor people really had to do. And of course, the wealthy were like, eating is out of style. By the 1960s, this thin aesthetic had a face, and that face was none other than Twiggy. She weighed in at about 91 pounds. She was 5'6", and her face was on the cover of every magazine that mattered. By 1963, Weight Watchers was born, the diet industry emerged, and self-control was packaged into a subscription box. Jump to the 90s, and thinness took on a new form. That was heroin chic. Face sunken, collarbones galore, blank stares. All of this packaged up to be sold as something that was edgy, which is arguably more dangerous than aspirational, mostly in part because it was aspirational to be very dead in the face, possibly on drugs, and malnourished. Fast forward to the 2010s, because this is when my generation was activated. It is Tumblr, and it is thinspo. Thinspo, Tumblr had my generation in a chokehold, so much so that it still affects us to this day. Thinspo lived as a hashtag and a subsection on Tumblr until it was banned, but the damage had been done, and some of it was irreparable. And of course, the perpetuation didn't end. The closest thing we had to this thinness conversation dying out since the early 1900s was from 2015 to 2020, and that was the body positivity movement. That was the most mainstream, diverse body type recognition this planet had seen for the first time ever. And when this started, I felt like there was genuine change. I was 17 when this movement started. It was a really good time for something like that to be planted in my mind. At that time, it was late in the game for me, but I didn't think about my body. I didn't think about how it was perceived. I didn't think about what I ate. I was an athlete that trained 25 hours a week at that time, so that's probably why. But being a teenager when something like this happened, I think like my frontal lobe still had about 8 years of developing. I think that was like a solid move in media. But then the body positivity conversation went quiet. For a second, it kind of felt like we were all under the consensus that this is how we were going to move now. And then financially, Big Pharma had other plans. GLP-1s had already been making their rounds in the elite spaces. I remembered Chelsea Handler was, I think, on Call Her Daddy a couple years back, and she was saying that her doctor's office was giving them out like Tic Tacs. She literally said she went to lunch with someone and they were both feeling nauseous. They didn't even know why. They were just both on GLP-1s. They went in for a freaking headache, she said. A headache. Left out with some GLP-1s. I mean, I think a lot of people would be happy to know that the doctors are using the elite as guinea pigs, but that's That's a little messed up if you ask me. June of 2021, Wegovy launched, sparking global explosion, becoming the first blockbuster drug to launch inside of the attention economy. I want to break down what that means. GLP-1s are the first of their kind to launch directly into a feed, into an algorithm that already runs on body surveillance and that already rewards body transformations. For example, GLP-1s, Wegovy, Roe, Big Pharma, they slid in right when they saw an entry point. And they knew the marketing of GLP-1s walked right into a house that diet culture never fully left. So if you're on your social media, or if you're watching TV, or if you're streaming and you're thinking, are GLP-1s being shoved down my throat? GLP-1s are fully being shoved down your throat. But not only is it in your face consistently, it's in your face in two different ways. So from the top down, Big Pharma is spending unprecedented ad dollars because they know that the seeds of being a skinny legend have been planted for ages. It's embedded into our DNA at this point. And it's also getting us from the bottom up because the influencer ecosystem was already incentivized to produce these body transformation content. And now they have pharmaceutical ad dollars put behind them. They have the algorithm supporting them. And freaking Serena Williams, the greatest athlete of all times, pricking herself. All of this is attached to this one drug. This is genuinely an extension of diet culture. It's just the most efficient delivery we have ever seen. So thinspo, heroin chic, all of these things that we've ridiculed and we talked about during the body positivity movement from 2015 to 2020 have just changed their vocabulary and their marketing. And I'm not saying that GLP-1s are bad, because GLP-1s are made for people who need GLP-1s. I'm going to put it right here because I'm not about to botch that right now. That isn't the research that I did. I just know this is not something that the public needs. Last season of Mormon Wives, Layla was in the pool with Miranda and with Jesse, and she was talking about how she was microdosing GLP-1s. She's 99 pounds. She's 5'9". And in that same episode, she went to see a specialist for an eating disorder, someone who has an eating disorder, microdosing this drug because it's so readily available. I would venture to say that she's not the only person doing that who needs help. But that's not even the most alarming part. The United States and New Zealand are the only two countries in the world that allow direct-to-consumer prescription drug advertising. Because every other country in the entire world decided at some point that this was too much power to hand to one industry, and that the public would be better off without this option. They looked at the situation and they said that drug ads should not be speaking directly to patients. Now we get to watch in real time what happens when a drug class with the highest revenue ceiling pharma has ever seen. We now get to see how that affects our people in real time. When the financial upside of a product is this large, the ad isn't describing a medical option anymore. It is now manufacturing inevitability. It's not, this exists if you need it. It's, this is coming for you either way, so you should just hop on early. Be the first. Why not? This isn't like the old propaganda. This looks like healthcare. This marketing is packaged as healthcare. This drug name has a clinical alibi that diet has never had before. And that's by design. When you dress the want in medical language, the want becomes unimpeachable. It's like you can't accuse someone of vanity when they're technically discussing their health. Except this time, it arrives with an ad budget, no diet book, no nothing subscription box and vocabulary specifically engineered to make the old critique unusable. Is it clocking to you yet? I think that that's hitting different parts of our brain that we don't even understand, because I am not going to be one to take a GLP-1 unless I needed to take a GLP-1 for insulin resistance or whatever it's used for. I don't know. I'm going to put it over here. But I do want to share a little story about myself. From birth to 18, as I said before, I did not really think about anything that I ate. I didn't really think about my body. I didn't really think about how other people thought of my body. I was like in a childlike state when it came to that. None of that ever crossed my mind. But my senior year, I stopped doing sports outside of school. I stopped training 25 hours a week. My mom moved to Texas for 1 year of work, and she didn't want to move me my senior year. So I stayed put where I was with my dad in Virginia, and we loved to try food, and we loved to indulge. That was like our thing. So when my mom comes back in the summer before I go to college, she says, "Wow, Elisa, you're looking a little chubby." And that was the first time I've ever internalized anything like that. And it hit me really hard.